to the joint meeting of the Planning and Development Subcommittee and Town Council meeting, Wednesday, May 5th. It's 6 p.m. here in the council chambers and remote. Call to order. Call to order pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30 Alpha, subsection 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Planning and Development Town Council is being conducted via hybrid remote participation only. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted in the council chambers, and every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by watching Southbridge Cable Access Channel 192 or by the remote information noted below. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website at www.ci.southbridge.ma.us as soon as we are able. Roll call vote is required for all votes taken under this order. Councilor Adams is present. Councilor Lazo? Absent. Councilor Dow?
Present.
Present. Catherine? I know she said she would be late this evening, and Dee Dee is excused. I do not have a quorum. I've asked Councilor Catrona to sit in to make the quorum, so we'll add him to our records as the third individual out of 5. Agenda item number 2. Consider and accept planning and development meeting minutes of April 21st, 2021. That should be changed and amended to April 12th, 2021. Need a motion and a second, please?
Motion.
Got a motion? Is second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Catrona seconded it. I don't have, the only thing that I see here is that on agenda item number 2 at the vote. I believe we had 4 individuals here, but I'll check with the Mary to see if or the video to see if that was true or not. So I'll leave it the same until then. Any amendments? Any discussion? Oh, hey, Catherine, you're here, so you're number 3. All right. Thank you, Councilor Catrona, for filling in. So Catherine is here.
She's in her car.
Can you hear us okay?
No.
What about your audio? We can't hear you talk.
Okay. Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. I appreciate it. All right. So I got a first and a second. Actually, Councilor Catrona, if you can vote on this, but any changes?
Not what I see. Thank
What
you.
about you, Councilor Catrona?
No, thank you.
On the, Catherine, since you're here, do you see any changes or amendments to the minutes from April 12th?
No.
Very well. All those in favor, Councilor Dow?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Councilor Adams is a yes. Councilor Catrona really doesn't. No, okay, we're good. Agenda item number 3, review, discuss the request from Miss Lynn DiPietro to serve on the Economic Development Commission effective immediately through June 30th, 2020 to fill a vacancy due to member resignation and pending completion of the state ethics training. Entertain a motion to vote to recommend to council for confirmation. Need a first and a second.
Motion moved.
Councilor Dow firsted, made the motion. Catherine?
I'll second.
Catherine seconds it. I did receive a message that she had a conflict for the time, so she can't make it this evening, but Mr. Town Manager?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman. I had a chance to review Ms. DiPietro's application, and prior to her applying, I did have the opportunity to meet with her and talk to her about her ideas about the future of economic development here in Southbridge, and I do think she would be a welcome addition to the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Any discussion on it? I will make note that I met with her personally myself. I recommended that she try to join this commission, and which she actually immediately did. She put her name in the hat, so I really appreciate that, and this will add to the ranks. Do you know how many we have on that commission right now at all, Mr. Town Manager?
Off the top of my head, no, sir.
I know they haven't met in a while, probably
Right.
since September, I think, but okay. Just appreciate her time. Any other discussion? All right, for a vote, Counselor Dow?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Counselor Adams is a yes. 3-0 recommended to Town Council. Agenda item number 4, discuss review change order number 1 from Vanessa Hangen, excuse me if I mess this up, Hangen Bruslin Incorporated, or VHB, in the amount of $2,500 to rebid the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, or RFFBs, for Southbridge Shared Streets Engineering Services, and entertain a motion to vote to recommend council approve this $2,500 change order. Need a motion?
Motion
Second. Counselor Dow, motion. Catherine?
Yes, I'll second.
Very well, Catherine seconded. All right, discussion. I know, Mr. Town Manager, do you have anything, or do you want to go right to Ms. Dean?
I can go to Ms. Dean. I mean, she asked if she can bring this forward, and I have no issue.
Very well, Ms. Dean. Uh-oh. Ms. Dean?
Here, I'm struggling with my screens. I'm trying to pull up the supporting documentation in my email. Forgive me, so I might have to just talk off the cuff. So I provided you the change order. We need to rebid the RRFBs, which I mentioned in the memo. The town manager had announced at whichever town council meeting it was. And the intention was for us to try to bid it on our own for the second time, but with my current workload, I kept putting it off, and I realized what we probably should do is see how much they would charge us for them to do it again. And so when we got the quote for $2,500, I asked Heather if she agreed. She absolutely doesn't have the extra time to be able to rebid it. And so if everyone agrees, this is the shared street funds. And so we would use an extra $2,500. We've been given permission by MassDOT. They've been very flexible. They've extended the contract out through to December. They've said we can redirect funds, which we have done. So we've, as you all know, moved the idea of the market by the wayside, and we are using the funds we would have used for the outdoor storage trailer and some of the stalls and all the the extras. We're using those extra funds to be able to potentially cover if the construction still comes in higher, and to ensure that we can at least pursue something, we're building in alternates, and we are going to go out for the pavement treatment for Main Street on our own.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. Any discussion on this at all? Councilor Marquetti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Do you think it's wise to keep going with VHB? I know last night when we were doing the Main Street road construction, VHB made a major mistake that cost the town a lot of money. So I'm just wondering whether it's wise to continue with VHB on this project, or is it too late? Or do we need this additional money for them to do any more engineering on this if it has to go out to rebid? Is that what I'm understanding here? So why would we even need them to do this? That's my first question, if she wants to answer.
Ms. Dean, thank you, Councilor.
Sure, through you, Chair, I would say yes, we need them. I understand that Heather had brought to my attention that there might be some concerns with VHB bringing this up. If you'll recall, when we got the 3 initial bids, they came in the initial quotes, excuse me, for the services to bid the RRFPs. They came in much, much lower originally, and the reason was because they were already doing identical design work for instance, the same RRFPs they're putting in at the post office. And so they're, familiar with the design, hence, they were still a good deal for us, right? Sort of a steal for us. And so if we wanted to go out for someone else to help us with the bid, we could by all means, but the level of familiarity they already have with this project and with the design, I would hope that it's worth it just to have them do this rebid work and then finish. Right now they have left on the remainder of it was a $14,500, I think, or $14,150 contract. They still are owed like another $2,500 for the oversight when the RFBs get installed. So, you know, we've already paid them for 3/4 of the existing contract. We would finish the contract, pay them for the rebid, and then have them do the oversight and be done. So I would say it's worth it to just stick with them for now, and then keep that in your pocket when you're going out for design in the future. You know, what's going on outside of this at Main Street. And I think that the proportionate concerns, this is a very minuscule amount of money and project versus a $2.4 million project out on Main Street.
So,
Go ahead, Counselor.
if you don't mind,
Sure.
so VHB did not engineer this right, or they missed something on this, which when the bids came back, they said, no, you need to do more? Or I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure I'm understanding this.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Forgive me. Can I just jump in, Councilor Adams?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so maybe I didn't lay the background clearly enough. When we went out to bid, the initial shared streets deadline was June 30. And so if you'll remember, I've been pushing hard right from day one to try to move so we could get this project off the ground and get the money spent in time. When the bids came back, part of the cost was the premium rate that we were being charged by these construction companies was because of that tight timeline. We were not unique. There were other towns that were coming back to MassDOT with similar situations. So we'd already heard from VHB, for instance, that another town had asked for a time extension because they too had high bids. So remembering that we are one of many communities that got buckets of money that's out there trying to spend it as quickly as possible, leaving construction companies busier who were already, as we know, in a busy construction season. We were unable to get the competitive bids that we were hoping for. Now, because we have the longer timeline, we can reduce that urgency, therefore reduce the cost of future bids that come in. You know, we expect to see future bids come in. And then as well, we've again built in alternates. So we have 5 RRFBs that we are interested in installing. We have the first 3 within the bid, and then we have 2 that we've left as alternate 1 and alternate 2. And then what came in even disproportionately higher was the pavement treatment. And again, it's that timeline we heard from. So for instance, I know True Heart Construction, who did our pavement treatment for the Hamilton Alley, we heard very similar things. If the time crunch, it can end up driving up the costs. But if you're a little more flexible, then you can potentially get you can get a cheaper rate. And so we've just left that out because we can very easily go out for that on our own so that it doesn't have to be this mystery number inside of their bid. And so it'll make for a cleaner, easier bid. So we're anticipating no fault of VHBs on that bid whatsoever. We're anticipating that with this new and extended timeline that we'll have an easier time getting a bid within our budget.
Okay, I don't know what that has to do with an increase in their rate, but that's all.
For the increase, I'm sorry, Counselor, what'd you say? I'm sorry. I
I'm
couldn't
not
hear you.
sure what all that had to do with why VHB is charging us more, but I will let somebody else ask questions. Thank you.
Very well, thank you.
May I respond to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Dean.
Okay.
Then Counselor Dow.
So change orders are for unanticipated work only. It's not to artificially drive up a contract price, right? We have to be very careful in procurement that we're not padding a contract in, to more than what we originally bid. So these were unforeseen circumstances that arose because, again, the bids didn't come within budget. And so we're now asking them to rebid, which is work for them to now. They're going to repackage our engineering documents with this new, what we're saying is alternates and taking out the pavement treatment, and then make sure that the bids get posted properly, et cetera. And that $2,500 is the hours it takes to do that.
Can I, before Counselor Down, Ms. Dean, just for me, it's $97,000 over the budget from the individual, the company that wanted to come in and do the work. And I understand this is the busy time of the year, but didn't was it Mass DOT that funded the shared streets, correct? Wouldn't they have thought
Correct.
about this themselves? I mean, especially at the height of the season? And it just extended out there to December 31st, so we had more time and possibly higher, more bids, I should say, but at a lesser cost. Did Mass DOT say why they decided to push this through the spring and summer and not wait until the end of the calendar year?
They were looking to spend all the shared streets down by June 30th. So I think that with a lot of these COVID-related grants, I think everybody's trying, and maybe almost unrealistically, to get the money out as quick as possible. You know, so they're having incredibly aggressive timelines. We're coming at it, you know, saying, yes, we'll try to get it done. So I think everybody's trying to put their best foot forward times 10 to really just get things moving. And so, you know, in this situation, yes, maybe MassDOT could have been more thoughtful. What you could also argue is that if everyone was given until December, then people might have taken more time. And there are, you know, people who will still ask for an extension, or, you know, who knows what the counter argument might be to that. But I'm not sure if they predicted this or not. You know, I just have to accept what it is.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. Councilor Dow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. My question is, so the VHBs, they want another 2,500 to go and rebid the contract. Isn't it they're supposed to be responsible from the beginning for their mistakes, or because the budget something and the contract given different prices? It should be their responsibility for that?
Ms. Dean, go ahead.
I would love to say yes, let's have them do it for free, but unfortunately in this situation, they didn't do anything wrong. It's just unlike, or not unlike other bids we've had in the town, it didn't come in within our favor, it didn't come in within our budget, we have to rebid it. And for those of you who watched me with the Central Street parking lot, you know that I've tried very hard to prevent potential rebids and to best position us with timing and strategy so that we don't have these situations.
So if we don't give them the 2,500, they're gonna stop here. They're not gonna move forward for any
Right.
more.
Go ahead, Ms. Dean.
They would do the oversight for whoever we hired for construction, but that would leave it on us. And I honestly am very busy and don't want to risk. This is outside of my skill set. Putting together engineering bids. This is something we always hire the engineer for, or we would have our DPW engineer do. And, you know, we did this with the promise that they wouldn't have to take on extra work. We know they're all very busy.
Okay, I'm not blaming anybody, but it seems like the engineering company is doing a lot of mistake and nobody's hold them count for any. Not only on this, on different, I know we're talking on this contract, but on different item too, and nobody's hold anybody accountable, you know, like to pay for it or be responsible for it, except the town keep giving them more money every time they ask for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Yeah, so in this situation, they haven't done anything wrong. Unfortunately, it's just being coupled with, you know, an unfavorable situation with the Main Street. I hope that these two can be parsed out as two very separate situations. The VHB design for the RRFBs is very simple. There have been no mistakes made as far as we're aware. The bids just came in too high because we were on too tight a timeline. I'm hoping that we can have them do the second bid to relieve us of doing it ourselves.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dean. Councilor Catrone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, just to my colleague, to my teammates, the way I just read through this quickly and the way Ms. Dean explained it, I think they simply overbid. The bids came in too high for $97,000. The town has asked them to remove some items from that, and thus the expense of the $2,500. So unless I'm misreading something, I don't see an error in this document. What I do see is that the town is asking them to pull a couple things out and simply resubmit, and that's going to cost the town an additional $2,500, unless I'm mistaken. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Dean.
Give a thumbs up, that's precisely it.
Any other discussion on this? Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor Steves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One quick question is that if it's something that's that simple and we already know what items need to be pulled out of it, I understand what you said, Peg, about being overloaded, and I know unfortunately the manager isn't here at the moment. But when it comes to bidding, ultimately the manager is responsible for bidding. And I was wondering if this is something that, I mean, it just seems to me like if we already know what needs to go and how it's going to change, this seems like it's just going to be a process of overseeing a bidding process that we already know how to do anyway.
May I
How is
comment?
it different if we already know what the bid is?
Sure. Councilor Adams,
Go
may I
ahead,
comment?
Go ahead, Ms.
Please.
Okay, so I looked at the documents. I'm the first person to be a go-getter and say I can handle this. As soon as I started looking at having to adjust the quantities according to the alternates, it became, I was at high risk of messing something up. So it's something an engineer needs to do. And I promised the DPW I couldn't put it on them. And when it comes to the bidding process, absolutely that's a town manager oversight, but it's an oversight. We always we have an engineer package the bid and we have him oversee that makes sure it's meeting the procurement requirements, for instance.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. Anybody else? Okay. Go and vote. Counselor Dow? I'm sorry.
Manager, Mr.
What was that?
Mr.
Oh,
McCall?
this is Town Manager before we do. Apologize.
No problem, Mr. Chairman. No, just for clarification, so by the charter, I'm the Chief Procurement Officer. Ms. Dean and I are both Massachusetts certified public procurement officials. Unlike some of the predecessors, I don't think they did it correctly, but you are allowed as the Chief Procurement Officer to delegate certain authorities. And it's not uncommon to allow certain department heads that have been through some of the procurement training to handle some of their own bids. So I have filed the appropriate paperwork with the Inspector General's office to allow certain people with certain restrictions to do some of their own bidding. Otherwise, you'd have chaos in the sense that we don't have centralized purchasing. So I made delegations where certain department heads, without any real oversight, can go out and get basic office supplies because we don't have, as I said, a central purchasing office. So people can go out and make some basic procurement. If they follow the general instructions, they get 3 quotes, or they go off the state bid list for items up to $9,999. That's typical. Once you have to get into the situation where you're doing bids, only certain people were allowed to do that. Ms. Dean's one of those people. But I can tell you that Ms. Dean will consult with me from time to time. I generally are there for a lot of the bid openings. When we review them, we discuss them. But during the process of drafting the RFPs, if we're doing it in-house, I review what they're doing. If we have an engineer, typically they have that same skill set and they'll do it. But at the end of the day, we do review the bids when they come in. So just to make you all aware how we typically do that. But there are things that are beyond our skill set. We've talked about it not only here this evening, but other times. Being a certified municipal public procurement official gives you the mechanics and helps you understand the bidding process and the laws and what has to be advertised and at what threshold you have to have bonding and other things. But it doesn't give you the expertise to know how to put in sewer pipe and what the quantities and what necessarily you might need there. That's where we would go out and get the expertise for an engineer, or situations where we've had HVAC contracts. I don't pretend to know how to how many cubic feet I need to have a compressor of a certain size, things like that. So a lot of it falls in-house, but some of the expertise of what goes into the RFP, we have to get an engineer such as VHB or some of the others that we've used over time, just so you understand.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. I guess the only thing I have to say on that one I don't know. I mean, I like Peg a lot, but I'm just not really sure if I want her out there on the street doing that work. That would be like me going out there doing it and thinking I know what I'm talking about, and when I actually don't. So no offense to Ms. Dean, but I completely understand where it's coming from. The VHB process, unfortunately, the bids were too high, and things do happen like that. It's I am concerned that Mass DOT, they try to push this money out, and I'm sure I respect that, because I don't want the money, we want to spend the money that they give us, or somebody else is going to take it from us. But I wish they would have slowed down just a little bit and thought out the process a little bit longer, so we wouldn't have to worry about this and be outbid or over budget by $97,000 on the only bid that we received. So that's all I have. Anything else? All right. Councilor Dow.
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Councilor Adams, yes. 3-0. Agenda item number 5, discuss review the extension of the Quabog Valley Community Development Corporation, or QVCDC, contract to December 1st, 2021, to allow additional time to spend down remaining CDBG-CV award funds to assist micro-enterprise businesses. Entertain a motion to vote to recommend that council approve this extension and authorize the town manager to sign off on all related paperwork. Motion is second.
Motion.
Councilor Dow. Catherine?
I'll second.
Catherine seconded it. Mr. Town Manager, or to Ms. Dean?
Yes.
Whichever you prefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, we have been distributing micro-enterprise grants through Quabog Valley. They've been our agent in assisting us with this. What is being asked here this evening is to sync up the time of those contracts. And reviewing my notes prior to this, I have to apologize. Ms. Dean gave me an update. I know Councilor Marquette's asked me to send them along when I do get them from Ms. Dean. She sent me one in April. I thought I had mailed it out. I went out a few minutes ago and looked. I forgot to send it out. I will send it to you at the end of this meeting, but we've given out 2 additional $10,000 grants since April, and I'll provide those to the council. And then for any other questions, I would hand it over to Ms. Dean with the increase as well.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Anything, Ms. Dean?
Yes, we wanted to spend this money by February. The Quabog Valley CDC warned us it's a long process to try to get all the required paperwork. We have, I think, 11 in the pipeline still who have not completed the paperwork process to be able to get their awards. And so, as they warned, it's taking longer. I originally gave this until June 30, the Quabog Valley CDC contract, because I thought it would be cleaner to close it out by the end of the fiscal year, and said that if it came to the point that we needed to, we would extend the contract. So here we are, unfortunately. So we, as the town manager said, we already have the DHCD contract in place until December, and so now we'll allow Quabog Valley to continue to spend down that money until December in the hopes that we do. The additional information related to this is that DHCD just gave us word that we're allowed to award up to $25,000.
Very well. Thank you, Ms. Dean. Councilor Marquette?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, do you think this is a good idea to keep this going? Because so far, and I haven't received the additional businesses, but so far in Southbridge, there have only been 2 businesses that have applied for it and awarded. One of them is out of business, as far as I know. And there's a business in Sturbridge, 2 businesses in Sturbridge, and 1 in Charlton. So I just not, of all this time, that's the only people that have applied for this, or all businesses that have applied. And the original contract, it was 15% of 10,000. So I imagine now it's 15% of 25,000. So the only comment I have is it just seems like the only ones who are making out, or really making out on this, is the Quabog Valley Community Development Corporation. If we're going to give out money to a business, I imagine that you'd want to give it to a business that's going to help them survive. And then one of them I know already is gone. So I guess they just took the money and closed their doors, I guess. I see the town manager shaking his head, so I'll let him
No,
answer.
hold on. Okay, I got it. Ms. Councilor, you good on yours? Is there?
I'm good.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Town Manager.
Well, I just wanted to make sure, I did not send out one on one of the ones that we were holding the funds, and that may be the one. If you're thinking about a restaurant, is that?
Yeah.
My understanding is they were going to be awarded that, and Ms. Dean could comment as well, but those funds have been placed on hold until they can prove that they're going forward and going to reestablish themselves.
All right.
So I didn't send out anything on that one because I didn't want to create any more confusion that may be out there. But we didn't, Ms. Dean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we did not actually transfer those funds. They're on hold until they can get themselves established at a new location for the restaurant. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then the other thing, just one more thing, some of the rules for this are so restrictive, I don't know who even qualifies for this. I did have a gentleman call me up and told me he applied for one of these, but he could not qualify. Some of the businesses that are prohibited, if somebody who owns a bar, and it seems to me bars have been hit the hardest, so I don't know why they don't qualify. Other ones were someone who rents property. It seems to me that a lot of people are having a hard time paying the rent, so I don't know why they don't qualify. If you're collecting rent and somebody's having a hard time paying you the rent, why wouldn't you qualify? I realize that these are rules not set by you or Quabog, but they are just very restrictive rules. One more thing, one of the companies in Sturbridge, I looked at them, and this is a couple who owns several businesses, so I don't know how they qualified either, but I just don't know if this is worth continuing. I know some people think, well, it's free money, but I don't know why we're running it if it's going to be just, people from Sturbridge and Charlton seem to be getting most of it. Of course, I haven't received your new list, but that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I did send it out. There's two new companies, and they are both from Sturbridge. And my recollection is that these monies came to us through CDBG as part of, I want to say, the COVID relief for small businesses. And my recollection was there's certain income thresholds, and because it's micro-enterprise, they have to be a certain size or less, which really restricts it to, as you say, it's narrowly tailored for really small businesses, so that have certain income thresholds. So you're right, there's only a handful of people that will probably qualify for this, but there was money provided to help some of these small businesses to make it through this difficult time. So, Ms. Dean, you want to add any more, but if we were provided this money to help businesses in the area, including our own businesses, I don't know why we wouldn't want to continue the process.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Ms. Dean?
The only thing I would add also is that of I think it was the 21 million that was doled out, half of that was for rental assistance. And so to avoid duplicating efforts, the reason the property owners are not allowed to claim is because the idea is that those who need rental assistance would get it from all those rental agencies to then pay rent, make the property owners whole, and avoid confusing the situation by then allowing the property owners to also claim.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. Anything else? Yeah, I don't see a real problem with us moving forward until at least December 31st. I do wish, even though we were the regional asset that put that in, or we became the hub for the regional asset, because we're the mini entitlement community itself, I do wish more Southbridge businesses, if they qualify, would actually come see Ms. Dean or go to even the public information still, I believe, has it on there as far as how to apply for it. And they are pretty tough restrictions. Has any restrictions changed from going to 10 to 25,000?
There have also been the ways they calculate the revenue. And so if anyone, I would suggest anyone who was turned away thinks that it's not based, the low to moderate income and the number and size of the business has not changed. But how they're calculating revenue and for how much you are eligible have changed. So please, by all means, call the Quabog Valley CDC. The information's on our website, on the homepage. I think it's the second announcement.
Very well. Thank you, Ms. Dean. Councilor Dow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Ms. Dean, I have a question. So if the business was closed, let's say restaurant, and opened 3 months ago, is that be able to apply for that loan, or no? You have to be open the whole period of the...
No, as long as you've reopened, by all means.
So he's,
It's
okay,
the
thank
same
you.
one you were talking about before? Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion? Okay, vote. Counselor Dow?
Yes.
Counselor Adams, a yes. Catherine, sorry.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's okay.
3-0.
Thank you.
All right, number 6, discuss review the extension of DHCD CDBG FY 2019 contract to December 31st, 2021 to allow additional time to complete commercial rehabilitation projects and infrastructure improvements. Entertain a motion to vote to recommend that council approve the extension and authorize the town manager to sign all related paperwork.
Motion.
Councilor Dow, a motion.
I'll second.
Catherine, second it. Thank you. Discussion. I'll say Ms. Dean. You're muted.
Sorry. Okay, so thankfully we have Heather on the line also. I've been suggesting that we extend the grant. I would love the extra time for myself to be able to have more time to finish up the commercial rehab. The year end comes quick. I have to get, all my year end close stuff lined up. If I could have the extra 6 months, that benefits me. So then I asked DPW, would it benefit to stretch the infrastructure? And she had been mentioning that if we could move the paving to the fall, that would allow for the construction work to settle before paving. We'd initially talked about doing, if you remember, we were going to start the project last summer and then we were going to do the paving this spring, summer. But because of COVID, as everything got pushed out, we ended up starting in December. And so it doesn't seem like a surprise that we would like to push it out another 6 months. So I hope that the subcommittee would consider it. It would be tremendously helpful for me again and for the DPW.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. Discussion. Quick question on this for myself. The housing or other under 4D code enforcement, that's paid off by the fiscal year, right? That'll be done. No problem. So really what we're looking at is Main Street because of the Main Street project to allow settling time. What about any signs or awnings or anything like that, facades?
So I have 3 projects in the pipeline.
Okay.
4 projects, 3 property owners in the pipeline that I've been trying to move on. And so because construction is demanding right now, I was putting out quotes, for instance, for a project. I've put it out 3 times and have gotten no responses. And so I'm having to readjust that scope. That's one example. I have 2, these other projects. So again, if I could have the extra time, it would be tremendously helpful for me. So we still have, on the books of the 60,000, we still have 47 and change.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Dean. Any other discussion? All right, vote. Councilor Dow?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes,
Councilor Adams is a yes, 3-0. Agenda item number 7. Discuss review pursuing the Mass Works grant application based on the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development's, I'll do the, I guess the brackets, EOHED, response to the expression of interest for public infrastructure improvements at the American Optical Complex / Southbridge Innovation Center, contingent on the design lining up with the corresponding budget provided by Worcester Development and Franklin Realty. Entertain a motion to vote to recommend that the council approve the grant application and authorize the town manager to sign all related paperwork.
Motion move.
Councilor Dow motioned it.
I'll second.
Very well. Second by Catherine. Mr. Town Manager, Ms. Dean. Ms. Dean?
I think we all anticipated that this was the direction we would end up going. So as I mentioned in the memo, Rosemary applied for this last year with the help of, I apologize, that agenda item sounds like it had a typo. It's the Worcester WBGC. So Worcester Business Development Corporation and their staff, Julie Holstrom, worked to put the grant application together. It was not lining up with the phase 1 that we were pursuing. It was like a big overview of the entire project. And so we had a debrief with MassWorks in January asking how could we better the application. they said make it clearer what the exact project is that will be exactly publicly funded, and then include it in the overall big picture, and prove that you're shovel ready. And so, assuming we can get all those things from Franklin Realty and Chip Norton, I suggest we go ahead with it. And the application is due on June 4th.
June what, I'm sorry?
June 4th.
Okay, thank you. Discussion. Counselor Steves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we kind of went through this discussion at some length with MassWorks with this particular project, or with the AO complex a couple of months back. How is this different from what we went through last time? Because as I recall last time, there were concerns about having to match it with federal funds, and the feds didn't like the idea that that property isn't publicly owned.
Ms. Dean. Ms. Dean,
I'm sorry?
go ahead.
There's no difference in concept. It's how we're packaging the grant. So again, I think it was a little broader when they submitted the last application. We need to be specific about which parts of the AO complex are within that covenant that we are then going to be using public funds to fund improvements, curbing the actual public, what will be made up to a public grade standard, the open space improvements, et cetera. And so then those specific infrastructure improvements need to be tied to the specific budget, and then the EDA funds for which you're referencing, or to which you're referencing, those, I think the EDA will commit, they're hoping by the beginning of June, to the funding. And if we have our good intention that we're going forward and EDA's funding comes through, we have a better chance this year. Last year, it wasn't packaged tight enough. And so they're saying, if you can make a clear argument to us and you can prove the private investment is contingent on it, then we are likelier to fund you.
Okay, I understand that side of it. The other side of it is, do we actually have a covenant in hand that says that all of these things that Chip was promising regarding public access and the time frame that it'll be open to the public, even though it's technically private property, and all of this other stuff, do we have that in hand?
That's the same covenant that you had approved last year as the town council. Yes, and so you had your attorney redline it, and it specifically stated within it that, it's for general public use. There were caveats about, if they needed to do work, they had the right to close it, if they have, et cetera. I have asked the town manager, the treasurer, and I think the two of them, if we could meet and review that covenant and make sure it meets legal standards to be able to include it in the application. And if for some reason they think we need to revisit that, then we'll have to bring that to you.
Okay, and that matters, and that's good. That's a good thing. Also, and so you think that the state and the feds will not have a problem with the lack of public land?
I think if the covenant is tight enough that we would be allowed to pursue this. And I've looked up the definition of covenant versus easement. They sound like they are interchangeable in a lot of situations, but I'm not a lawyer, and so that's why I'm looking for guidance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I think the question for some of us who couldn't hear him, was this application going to be tight enough to get it passed through this time instead of like last time? All right, any other discussion? Counselor Marchetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I remember when we talked about this, it was over a year ago, was it, when we first talked about this, and I thought there was some questions about this MassWorks grant would take away the town's ability to get the MassWorks grant. And so is this going to tie it up again so that the town cannot apply for any MassWorks grants? That's my one question.
So that's a good question, Counselor, because I do know Rosemary had brought that specifically up, or even the town manager at the time, but I'll let Ms. Dean answer that. She's probably have a little bit more information now.
Your point is well taken, Councilor Marchetti. Those are the exact questions that the funders ask is, is it clear that this is your number one priority? If I'm hearing the question right, that's what you're asking? Or are we eligible for 2 grants at once? So we're not eligible for 2 MassWorks grants at once. And EOHED wants to know that we are welcome to submit 2 applications that can compete against each other. But to them, that would just show that there's not the full buy-in from the town to pursue whatever that number one priority is. Part of the exercise of the expression of interest was to be able to outline what our priorities are so they know where we're coming from a big picture perspective. And so as you may have seen inside their response to us, they said you're probably only ready for permitting at the Globe Village. You're probably, unless you can prove otherwise, you're probably not ready to go forward with a MassWorks grant elsewhere. And so if we wanted to, for instance, go for ancillary work at the Mill River Bridge or work over there, if we wanted to go for work at, other types of infrastructure over there, we would need to have been a lot farther along. So we're hoping, and what the DPW would like to see us achieve is that if we succeed with the MassWorks with the AO this year, great, done, then we can all move on and we can start to focus on other infrastructure projects such as over in the Globe Village.
All right, that's good.
Very well, Councilor, thank you. I do want to say that it was overwhelming support last year for this MassWorks grant. I could be wrong on that one, at least. I know that was one of the questions that was brought up, but it's a very valid question since we have so many projects that we'd like to get done in the town. I just don't know if the Globe Village area is ready to move forward with anything at this point, but okay. Any other discussion? So I do have a question for you, Ms. Dean. Under your background on the first page, you stated, learned the application was incomplete. Is that because it just wasn't tight enough, or is it something that the town did, or is it something Franklin Realty needs to tighten up themselves, or what may that be?
Yeah, so in my prior role as a town administrator, I have written these grants. I wrote one on our own, and I've had one where the developer came in and was writing it. And this is similar to the experience I had with the developer coming in. If you lose a sense of the control over the application, you might end up just letting the developer, do the work, write the application. I can't have that happen. With all due respect, I understand they're highly capable, but they will not be the ones that are submitting for payment to the state. They will not be the ones that are who are liable if something goes wrong with that money, right? And so we need full control over it. And so therefore, we would need to write the budget very clearly, what we are funding, what parts of the design tie with it, et cetera. I don't have that level of confidence that I understand the full project. And I understand exactly what money is needed for what. That's the detail that should have been in it in the first place and that needs to be in it this time around. And so I'll be happy to work very closely with Franklin Realty and the people over at the Worcester Business Development Corporation to make sure that we try to get it as correct, as accurate as possible, but within the town's purview.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dean. I do notice that a lot of the language that I saw here, I believe you had on the Shared Streets grant. I think it was a Shared Streets grant, or one of the other grants you applied for. But if I'm not mistaken, on the form itself, the Community One Stop for Growth, is that the new application process? I think the town manager brought up a few months back. Is this the one that's we'll see more often now? Okay. Well, I'll take the nod, Ms. Dean, yes. Okay, got it. All right. Thank you, Ms. Dean. Is there any other discussion on this? Okay, vote. Councilor Dow?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yeah.
Councilor Adams is a yes. All right, agenda item number 8 is maybe a quick one, but we'll have some discussion on this. The discussion of the rail trail initiative. I just wanted to make comment before. Ms. Dean, I made you a presenter too, if you needed to throw up the slides up there. But I just wanted everybody to know that we discussed this a couple years ago and even up till last year, and then obviously we had some issues with the leasing process that concerned a lot of councilors at the time. Not that anybody stopped working on it. I think there was a lull between changing of town managers and the economic side. And so Ms. Dean, and I know the town manager, and Mr. Rumsey have been working on this, I believe, since last December. Maybe even a little earlier about this rail trail project. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Dean. Yeah, I'll just turn it over to Ms. Dean. Thank you.
Sure, I actually, can you reshare that link? I panicked because I couldn't find my supporting documentation and I denied the share before. I apologize.
All right, I'm going
And I
to
hope that this version that I found is the most up to date.
take that off.
She left.
Oh, maybe I took her off.
Yeah,
Give her a minute to come back on. I hope I didn't remove her.
just right.
Literally.
You right-click on her name and make her a presenter.
I made her the presenter before, and I don't know what happened here at this point.
It's really hard to hear them up there.
Yeah,
Same thing.
it's mumble,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't understand why, but
All right, there she is.
She's back.
Did I do that to you? Oh, yes, I pushed the wrong button. Sorry.
she's muted.
There you go. You're a presenter now. My apologies, Ms. Dean. I threw you off the meeting. Can't see this far from my screen.
Okay, so we've got the slides here. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully these are the most up to date. I don't know how quickly or slowly you want me to go through these.
She should expand her window. Maximize your windows. She can.
Nice to see you.
Get to see my email. Huh? I am not having a ton of luck tonight. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to have to leave it on this, unfortunately. So, I don't know how much or how little you want to go into this, but hopefully you got a gist for the history that we've over the last few months come to. We researched as best we could what's happened with the rail trail to date, and it sounds like the biggest concern was the lease. And with the lease, there are two issues. One is how do we meet the wetlands requirements on the Dudley stretch? If MassDOT wanted us to cap it to make it pavement, which is a good solution to prevent contamination, but that might then trigger us having to widen the trail, which would then trigger us having to do drainage to MS4 standards and moving soil to expand the trail also is potential contamination. Then the other part of the lease that was an issue was the actual section 12.1, which talks about potential future contamination being discovered and the potential liability to the town for it. And so we keep moving forward. My first suggestion was let's do a brownfield site assessment and find out how much contamination is really there. And so we are in the midst of getting permission for CMRPC, our local planning agency, through their hired consultant, Fussin O'Neill, to pursue the phase 1 site assessment. We were just on a call yesterday with the people who approved the applications for site access for MassDOT. And so it sounds like sometime this spring, summer, Fussin O'Neill will be given permission to walk the site. And then they'll give us a report that talks about the level of contamination, not found because they can't do actual borings or testing on the soil, but they can do a walk that says it's sort of like a culmination of any public information and observed information. But that can trigger future mitigation grants if something is found, which might be what we would need to assure us that it's not too onerous to take on the lease. And then while we were on the phone yesterday with these people for, they're called APM, and they work for MassDOT, they said that they believe that there is statutory language out there for this specific reason that protects us in this situation. They said that MassDOT bought this rail trail however many, a decade and a half, 2 decades ago, for this exact purpose, for towns to be able to pursue rail trails, and that they think that there was legislation or statutory language created to protect us. They're going to look into it and get back to us.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. I do know, I just want to make mention, I was pretty quick on the history part, but I know it was brought to during a counselors forum, and there were some counselors that were wanted to see what we were doing with it, or what the progression was. So that's why the town council chair asked me to bring it back to the subcommittee to discuss where we're at right now. I know Ms. Dean threw this out there just not threw it out there. She put a lot of time and effort into these slides to show kind of a little bit of the history. One thing that I did want to mention, and Ms. Blakely can tell me if I'm wrong, but there was also the grant issue, a timeline that we as a town had to accept this grant. It came out to the basin area where it's being washed out was costing more and more money, where that $1 million, when we gave up I believe it was $135,000 for the engineer study itself, or the design, but that $1 million was being taken a lot by that washout. And then I just recently found out it's not costing as much money as originally thought. That has nothing to do with what the town talked about. It has a lot to do with Mass DOT. And Ms. Blakely, maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong on that one, or update us on that.
So I don't really have an update on how much it's costing Mass DOT to do the washout area. But I can say that, yes, there was multiple things going on between the washout, DOT's requirements that we accept the lease to be able to continue on with the grant program and the TIP program. And at the time, after reviewing the lease, with comments even from the attorney, there's a lot of recommendations that we didn't proceed with that lease as it was shown, or as it currently stood. And then most of the problems really did come back around potential contamination and what MassDOT was requesting us to do as far as part of the project, including, like, when we were going into meetings with them, they wanted us to take responsibility for the disposal of all of the treated wood, and then after the treated wood was removed, they wanted us to sample all of that. And those project costs were just escalating, and our concern at the time was, per that lease, any of that, if there was contamination there, that was going to come back onto the town as a cost that the town was going to have to cover, and we didn't really find that to be very fair. So those were the concerns that they were voicing at the time. What they have done since their project is they're probably not disposing of any of those treated, they're not doing wood, they're not doing anything to improve the condition of the trail itself. They're only stabilizing the bank and worrying about that at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Blakely. Anybody have any discussion on it at all? Councilor Catrona.
Just very quickly, thank you for bringing this up tonight. Mr. Chairman, just a couple quick notes for discussion. Maybe, possibly, I've been pushing this, and I'm going to continue to do that. And I don't know if this is something our town manager can maybe talk to some of our local legislators, if he hasn't already. I know in 2013, roughly, when Rosemary came on board, this was discussed. We talked about economic development then, and I still feel strongly that this is a big part of our economic development in this town. We approve money for an airport. We give money we approve money for the AO for innovation, yet we're building housing down there. We built a road, we built a road to nowhere to bring business into this community. So I feel strongly that if we can get this on the right track, this will improve our economics in this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Anything else?
Just a quick question.
Yeah, Councilor, please.
On the front page here, through you, Mr. Chairman.
Sir.
It says the project is being held up by a subcontractor. What does that mean?
Ms. Dean? Yeah, Ms. Dean, go ahead.
Sure. So when we looked into deeper okay, so the public hearing for the work that will go forward happened July of 2019 or sometime in Town Hall. I attended to try to get a sense for what was happening, and they, at that time, had said they were too close to the end of the fiscal to be able to try to tuck in any there were some potential right-of-way issues to really do more trail work. That was when they were kind of saying, like, it's probably going to be just the bank stabilization at that point. So then it was revised, and it became strictly the bank stabilization. As Heather said, there was no trail work to be done. The only amount being spent at that point was then the $385,000 strictly for the bank stabilization, and they hadn't moved on it yet because they were having issues with their own subcontractor. And so they were just going to give us an update of where they are in getting that bank stabilization done. But again, it's no trail work. And the $100,000 that you spent locally for the design, rest assured, is still sitting, ready to be used, almost complete when we go forward. So no money was lost. Your efforts were great. You might be serviced better now by not working through MassDOT and MassDOT funding because you don't have to do the submittals through MassDOT. And my next action is for us to go to the Concom tomorrow night and ask what their opinion is on how to best approach the wetlands issue. Because if they're the conveyors of the DEP permit, let's get their buy-in right now about what they think the best solution is.
Thank you. Councilor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, possibly to the town manager. If you haven't already, I don't know if it's possible if we can work on scheduling another meeting maybe in a month or two, possibly reach out to our local representatives and see if we can get some kind of feedback. Sure. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if
Go
I
ahead,
may,
Mr. Talmadge.
wouldn't be a problem. Since coming here, one great thing about the legislative delegation here is Representative Durant and Senator Fatman have been very approachable, and their staff has been. And I know we've had casual conversation even when I met them up at the vaccine distribution site, our EDS site, and we've talked about a lot of these things. So generally speaking, it's on their radar because I brought it up, but maybe it's time for that more specific sit down with some folks here from town to say this is going to be one of our priorities going forward, coming out of the pandemic. If we're going to be getting some monies for infrastructure and related improvements, maybe we can work with them to piggyback those monies with some assistance from the state to spearhead these projects. So,
thank you.
Very well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. No, I don't have a problem at all bringing this back up here in a few months and see where we're at with the movement forward. I think there's going to be some ideas that'll pop up. I do know there's been discussion on, do we do the center of the town first? Do we do from Dudley up to the Golden Greek? So it's trying to figure out and mold what we need to do. I do believe it's an important part of our economic growth in the town, and I don't think it's all, but I do think it's important to bring people into town and help economically grow our community. Ms. Dean, you had something?
I did. So I think that I was asked at one point to provide a grant activity and proposed grants in the coming year, and I had initially suggested the park grant, which is coming up. It's going to be due in July, or for the rail trail, or the land grant. There's two grants that we could have pursued, but because it's unlikely we'll have the brownfield site assessment completed by then, the next obvious bucket of funding that we could pursue would be the Mass Trails grant, which is due in February. And so I don't know if, as a strategy, we wanted to aim for all of our ducks in a row by next February. If we can prove that we've got the lease in hand, or at least in the making, we'd have a good chance for funding that.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. If I'm not mistaken, the Parkland grant also it goes up to about $400,000, I believe, but there's a matching fund, I think, of 50%. I may be wrong on that one, somewhere around there.
It's 30%, and the Mass Trails grant is a 20% match.
Oh, sorry, I was off just a few percentage points. So, all right, thank you. Anything else? We'll continue to discuss this as we move forward with it, and I'll stay in touch with the town manager and Ms. Dean and Eric downstairs. So, All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Any other discussion? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. So agenda item number 9, new business. Councilor Marquetti, I need to take that one off. Go ahead.
Actually, I just wanted to thank the guys in the cable office because they've been working every night since we started doing this hybrid. I know a lot of them, they work all day long and then they come in here at night. And this is extra duty for them. Hopefully, at the end of the month, maybe we'll get back to normal and they won't have to come here every night. But I just wanted to give a shout out to them and tell them I really appreciate them helping. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor, for bringing that up, because they are forgotten sometimes, or most of the time.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of hard work for us. Anything else? All right. Agenda item number 10, motion to adjourn. Councilor Dow.
A second.
All right. All those in favor? Councilor Dow?
Yes,
Catherine?
Yes.
Councilor Adams is a yes. Thank you.
good night.
Okay. Thank you.